Systemic thinking, the way to superconsciousness.
Okay, we can define the component-oriented mind. This is related to my research. This is a mind that, in exception of itself, considers no other things to make decision, to operate, and to behave. For example, in the plot, you can see the mental model or mathematical mental model. You can see maximum Cx or objective functions uh, is achieved subjected to the Ax is less than b. For example, uh, this can be assumed in the mind of component oriented. The individual consider itself. For example, if I want to consider my component oriented mind, I consider myself and my uh, favorites, things, and my blanks, and everything that I love them. This related to myself. The red individual considered itself. After that, it separate the total society, total group from himself or herself. And in the last part of the plot, you can see uh, the individual has separated from the whole system and considered himself or herself, so that I can say only myself is important, and others have not importance for me. Okay, this is called component oriented mind. An example for component oriented, you can see the figure so that the best solution is obtained for only demander. Demander companies minimize the transportation costs. Minimum demand costs. Okay, subjected to some constraints. This is not very important for so that I want to present the details. And the blue point inside this region, you can see the blue point is the best solution for only demander, for just demander. And second part uh, is defined for supplier companies. Supplier companies want to maximize the transportation profits, and the mathematical model is presented following this, and you can see the best solution for only supplier or just supplier. The blue point also is the best solution for supplier. If we want to integrate it, uh, demander to supplier, we can obtain the new model. I will present the new model after presenting and defining the holism. Holism is the idea that various systems, physical, biological, and social, should be viewed as wholes, not merely as a collection of parts or components. Um, I defined this vocabulary previously, approximately. In the palette, you can see there are many components, so that these components have closed by the hole, similar to black box. That is called holism view. And holistic mind, this is related to my research. The holistic mind, this is a mind that, in addition to itself, considers all things to make decision, to operate and to behave, in contrast of the component-oriented mind. This vocabulary in the literature is defined to integrate of mind, spirit, and body. We don't mean this meaning. I'm I want to present the holistic mind to consider everything similar to thinking, whole thinking or systemic thinking. Okay. In this pillar, you can see all things are very important for individual, not manager, for individual. For example, you have characteristics and belongs and favorite things, and you want to consider all things and the relationship between them to make decision, to operate and to behave according same mathematical model or mental model. Okay, this model is a mathematical programming, but is changed to considering all things, not itself, not myself, not himself, not herself, all things, us, and bigger than us. For example, in this plot, the individual has connected to all things and perceive the relationship between the components so that it can figurate the whole system similar to Halles, so that they are important for the individual and we are important altogether to make decision, to operate and to behave. Okay, in this example we can return to the basic example about the demander and supplier. In the figure of in the left side you can see the unification of supplier and demander. Supplier and demander are unified to achieve the new model, supplier demander model, so that they can have win-win approach. Both supplier and demander can obtain the best solution. For example, individually you can see the mathematical model of supplier mean D subjected to demander, and supplier max S subjected to AS less than right hand side BS, for example. These are not important. We must do present new model integrated of two models, maximum cost profit of suppliers minus cost of demanders. This is the new objective of the integrated model, subjected to constraint of individual supplier, constraints of individual demander. As you know, and as we know, the in the feasible region is possible to be smaller than previous structure after common between the boundaries and several constraints. You can see it is possible the feasible region It's possible to be smaller than the visible region of individual. Okay, and the best solution is possible to be changed. It's possible to be decreased because the objective function is maximum. But it is very important in this structure that supplier and demander will be satisfied with this approach. Satisfaction is very important for this new model. In the Hollis mind, all components think about preference of all components and satisfactions of all components. As you see, if the constraints of individual model can be achieved to feasible region, it is possible to achieve the infeasible solution. So what is our duty? We can remove of infeasible constraints so that we can make a feasible region, as you see on the left figure. And after figurating the feasible region, you can achieve to the best solution for total supplier and demander structure.